reckoned with in the bottom lane in this very bot-focused meta, so they're the ones that could also carry SKT.
Yeah, and what we said, or what we saw yesterday, is that we can sing their praise many times over with how well they played against EDG, even from a 10k deficit, showing that in this world, even in group stage, they're here to win.
Well, we'll see what happens in the draft, of course. We've got Galio, Rakan, and Renekton, banned by SK Telecom T1. Kalista and Jarvan, they're over on the other side for AHQ.
Yeah, the Renekton ban looks a little peculiar, but you also have to keep in mind that Ziv is the carry top laner of the LMS. So they're just trying to make sure that he doesn't have any big comfort picks. They are leaving Jace up, which was one of his big ones as well, but if we have seen a lot of Jaces at Worlds, they do get outscaled often, and it looks like SKT will be willing to go up against him.
And this is curious as well, going for the first pick that SK Telecom have gone towards. AHQ with a wealth of options. That's the big thing from these bans. You've got Gragas, you've got both Lulu and Janna that stand to attention as well, with just Rakan gone. Yeah. And then Tristana in the AD carry position if you'd like as well. There's just so many options that I feel like SKT chose the one they wanted the most.
Yeah, AHQ could have just gone Trist Lulu, which is not that odd of a thing, but it depends on where they put their priorities and the type of game that they want to play. And also, we can't be too quick to write off AHQ at all in this tournament, because yes, they were looked at from a lot of us, our analysts, as the lowest tier team in this group, but they came back against EDG. Then we watched EDG push SK Telecom to the brink. So you need to watch more of it shake out. A team like AHQ can't necessarily be judged off of domestic play because they so often make it to Worlds and come up in the clutch. So this is the game that you have to judge them by.
Well,
the games.
Gragas and Janna picked up at AHQ, so actually taking Janna over Lulu. Haven't seen too much of that this tournament, and SKT will respond by taking the Lulu themselves. If current draft trends are to be stayed with here, I think 80 carries up next. Yep, that's where I was going.
Yeah, and perhaps the concern and the reason that they've taken Janna is so that you can't have the Twitch Janna combo. It is still Lulu Janna, which is very potent, but it means that they get Janna for themselves, and this is where Tristana can come into play once again. Pretty strong when you look at it.
Yeah, there's also Xayah still on the table, which is a very common pick with Janna as well.
Kind of interesting to see Kog'Maw also being open. SKT, though, I guess opting for Bank's Twitch instead. And looks like AHQ are going to go with Xayah as we move into ban phase number 2. So we've seen a lot of drafts start like this. We'll see exactly where the next phase of bans goes to and which solo lane is going to start getting targeted.
Yeah, we said this yesterday as well. Picking Xayah into Twitch, it's okay. Very low-range champion in comparison to Twitch with ultimate up, though, as you hit mid-game, as you hit late game. So that's the risk that AHQ are going to be running, hoping perhaps that SKT run towards them so Xayah can kite back and utilize the feathers effectively. But then who's hitting Twitch?
Yeah, iBoy had a pretty good game against it yesterday, but there's still plenty to be decided in this draft, as you mentioned, PastryTime, continually banning out those top laners for Ziv. And you're expecting AHQ to probably ban out the mid laners for Faker, as that is the most feared opponent on both sides.
I think if you're in the dark against Faker and you get a chance to, banning Cassio is pretty good given how lane dominant he is on the champion, but Kassadin is not the one I would have expected as AHQ picked that up as their second mid lane ban.
Fair number of mid laners still going to be up.
Yeah, Corki as well. Perhaps if they want to be super defensive, knowing that it might be Orianna for Faker, Hexdrinker user. If you want to go the route of not losing lane, I feel like that's a viable option.
Well, we'll see what SKT do. Top lane still targeted. There's Trundle banned away, which probably signals the tank is on the way.
So interesting, right? How Trundle doesn't make an appearance until 2 games where he smashes the Cho'Gath, and everyone's else like, let's just make sure that we're not ready for that yet. Let's ban it away. Look good. Like, had they not thought about it beforehand? Now showing up a lot in phase 2 of bans. If SKT want to go with Cho'Gath, which they do.
Well, Syndra picked up for AHQ, so blind pick mid lane here, but Chawi should feel pretty comfortable. Very strong early game and a mid-lane dominant mid laner. So Faker, of course, will have something prepared and will likely even just play something like the Orianna. We've seen that time and time again.
Yeah, Rusty also brought up the Corki, which is a real possibility.
I mean, ultimately, he can choose whatever he likes. Ryze is the most realistic one for the purpose of protecting Bang, if that's what SKT want.
Oh,
no, it's not!
No, it isn't!
Leave it to Faker. This was an old school counter pick to Syndra that most people have moved away from, because the Syndra's got good enough at playing the matchup to out CS early and then could play defensively or itemize defensively enough to make it just a losing matchup for most of the game. But Faker always has the gusto to pick into these types of matchups and instill fear in his opponent.
Part of me is slightly sad as AHQ are going to lock in Maokai as their final and pretty expected pick here, taking the other tank that Westdoor isn't here to play. I feel like in some small way, this is a bit of an homage. Faker's saying, come on, next time, bring Westdoor.
He just keeps doing this, man, and he almost got punished for it yesterday, and probably should have, when he picked an Ori into a Lucian knowing full well that it was just for the comp. Here, it's like the Twitch is actually just for the matchup, or maybe even a style choice against AHQ. Westdoor was a Fizz player. He's not even here, though. So it's like, I guess, yeah, it's just for the counter pick, as you say, PastryTime. It's quintessential Faker.
Certainly is. Going to have TP by the looks of things, so pretty essential as far as Fizz goes, because early landing is real bad.
Yeah, it's rough. You have the last hit using your E as well, so you're troll polling everywhere, using the most important cooldown to survive, just to be able to last hit and dodge damage. So it's not an easy laning phase. You will trade poorly most of the time. Teleport needed with your Corrupting Potion, perhaps get a Dark Seal and sustain through as best you can. Ultimately, having the troll pole though, level 6 helps a lot.
Well, seen a lot from Faker already. SKT have looked very good in the early stages of this group stage. However, we'll see if AHQ are up to the task. They, I would say, effectively upset EDG already to start off their early entrance into the event. So anything is possible, but Faker, he said it himself, you have to do a lot of work over and over again to best him, and we'll see if AHQ can take a game.
Yeah, and I mean, Faker has also played Fizz in a lot of high pressure and important matches as well. He played it against Samsung in their playoffs a month ago. So one of the only players still playing Fizz in this current state of the game.
Certainly a confident player, has a lot of champions and a long history at winning, especially here at Worlds. We'll see if he can continue that trend with his team, or again, if AHQ have something to go. Cho'Gath is in, and he's got quite the challenge against him today. He, I guess, asked to be counterpicked by Faker, and Faker has responded with Fizz.
Ask and you shall receive, of course. AHQ, it's not just Cho'Gath that have the hard task here. They're all playing against the world champions. It's one of the hardest asks for them, and they were predicted to be fourth in this group. Yes, they've got victories, but now they're against the 2-0 top of the table opponent.
Well, curious to see how the early landing stacks up.
With a lot of refillable potions, as far as I can tell.
That seems to be
SKT.
the new hotness.
Yeah, Huni, surprised you didn't go Dark Seal refillable up there, but that's because Cho'Gath's one weakness in the early landing phase is his gank ability, so he needs that extra health. But this is all about efficiency for SKT in the early game. The double refillable, most likely the gold generation on the Lulu, since they're going up against a Janna, don't have to get all in. You can do the Relic or the Cull. They have different strengths and weaknesses, but that early landing phase for SKT, very passive.
It looks like everyone just spread out right now. This also will be Peanut's first foray on Sejuani for this tournament. Had 2 Javan games in a row. AHQ decided to take that one off the table, so we'll see what changes are in store for him and his usually aggressive playstyle.
And it is amusing to contrast when it's very efficient and passive from SKT, the aggression from AHQ with items, as we might find ourselves with an odd 2v2 at the start of the game.
Yeah, I'm curious, though, how long they're willing to fight around here, because Faker's getting push in the mid lane, which means he will hit level 2 first on Cho'Gath, and it's not like he's even successfully pushed off Peanut and Huni. This is just delaying the top laners and junglers' experience in this game.
Yeah.
Cho'Gath abandoned because he knows it's actually...
I think they're committed.
It's too valuable for the mid laners to go here until one of them is level 2, so this is a 2v2 smite fight.
SKT are losing.
Peanut does have the permafrost, does a lot of damage when he autos it, but the buff now going to reset and walk back, and Peanut wasting a lot of time and still sticking around.
You can't leave at this stage, right?
Not really. It becomes whoever can get the smite first. If the Syndra can stack it up to 4, it's a better secure than what Gragas has. The top laners also say they want the experience. And if one guy sticks around long enough, you actually just have to abandon the red. If Mountain can get level 2 off the Raptors, he's good, but Peanut's going to walk over and harass this too.
Oh, no.
He has A, not W, so no AoE here. Sejuani. Oh, I'm not going to get the first one. Mountain grabbing another.
If he gets all of them, he hits level 2.
Yeah, you got it.
Yep, Mountain got it again.
I think Peanut has to abandon ship because the risk is too high.
Peanut, what are you doing?
Oh, an auto attack. Face off. Mountain going to grab another
The next one gives him level 2.
All right, resets. Oh, he got the big one.
Still gives him level 2 if he gets this one.
All right, well, I think Faker's also coming up to join the party.
There
oh, Mountain
we
got
go.
it again. He's now 2 and Peanut. He got the big Raptor, but he's still level 1, and now Cho'Gath's coming up at level 3.
Oh my god, it never ends.
Huni's back.
Welcome to Wacky Races.
All right, well, we're going to go for this one once more. Mountain has to know something's up, and Faker's been pulled. Cho'Gath did not follow, and now Faker going to get some harassment down. Mountain is still taking a lot of damage. The pop was already there. Faker going to dodge out from that spear by Cho'Gath, and that buff goes over. Ziv late on the rotation. Doesn't make it over the wall, so he's going to keep getting harassed as well. Ziv could get stunned. One more auto needed, but not quite in range as Faker and Cho'Gath still standing off.
Unreal level 1 right there to just throw a wrench into the early game, because SKT is not known for these types of invades whatsoever, but they kind of won it in a weird way at the end. They got Mountain completely pushed out of the jungle. Peanut still secured red buff. He's going to have double buff early. Faker's catching a wave in his turret that is going to be fine after the teleport. They didn't get punished too much for that when it looked almost really silly by Peanut in the first place.
It's an interpretive dance if ever I've seen it. You can make what you will, but ultimately, SKT are okay for it, and it could have been worse.
I mean, if it's going to be anyone, it's going to be the more unpredictable sides of Huni and Peanut to pull something off like that. Faker, though, does TP back to lane, very far behind in CS currently. And Cho'Gath, again, going to try and stay strong in the matchup. Like we said, for Fizz early, it is not good.
Yeah, it is not good, but it also is so reliant on Faker's ability to dodge skill shots, because at least before Lost Chapter, the Syndra has a very finite amount of mana. So I noticed Faker's playing incredibly aggressive, almost daring Cho'Gath to burst him, but you can look at his mana pool right now, it's pretty low. So Faker should be able to CS relatively freely once the wave gets in a good spot that the turret's not trolling.
Yeah, and that's the teleport advantage that he'll have. But remember that, like, the reason Faker is so significantly far behind at the moment was because he went to help in the jungle as well. So by pressuring out Mountain, it gives Peanut the red buff, and all of this results in mid lane being fairly far behind in farm. But you'd say it was worth it in the end. How's the teleport?
Yeah, well, the gold is also up by 300 for SKT, so yes, Faker is down 100, but the advantages are elsewhere. Peanut's up 300 gold on
Peanut also very low, but does have a level up right now. Mountain trying to steal away some of these Raptors, but Peanut, he got the red buff. Mountain just going to get away, chase Peanut, but Peanut dashes out. Mountain looks like he should be able to counter jungle this camp, though. Cho'Gath with a lot of pressure adding in. He smites the big one and AoEs the rest of them. Peanut forced to go home, but does pick up his early jungle items, so level 1 again. Pretty much paying off for Peanut, if only slightly.
Yeah, there's a good camp to get as well. The Raptors is one of the higher priority camps towards middle lane, just having that track, having access to the river as well. Mountain didn't go towards the Scuttle Crab, now has that as an option if he would like at any given moment.
Mountain pretty far behind in XP though, so probably wants to keep farming it up. Peanut should be charging through as he takes down the Scuttle Crab very quickly with the empowered E, and I even look for another invade. Again, Faker can't really help until he's 6.
But again, Mountain prioritizing the Raptor camp, knows that Peanut might invade him because he just stole the Raptors from his opponent, so takes them first, gets level 4, and is in an okay position as a result of that, very aware.
Yeah, definitely a really interesting matchup between the junglers needing to think on your feet, and Peanut hasn't necessarily taken him out of the game, and his mid lane is well ahead because of it. So that 20 CS advantage in the mid lane, jungle CS lies to you. It's a 150 gold lead for Peanut, but that's a trade I feel like almost any jungler would make if they were able to just choose my gold versus mid lane gold.
Well,
in pro.
Charlie also going back, as it looks like a lot of harass here in the bot side. Bang! Getting some good contaminate damage down, but no ultimates just yet, so everyone's going to stay relatively safe. Wolf, though, with that Thunderlords, we've seen so much priority on Lulu for, I think, mostly this reason. You can generally get a bit more ahead in these more defensive bot lanes, and Bang and Wolf, no slouches in the lane.
And you mentioned this before, Jatt, when we looked at the itemization at level 1. Well, SKT haven't recalled until right now, but they're ahead 7 odd CS in this lane up until these minions get caught up to from Ornn, and that's with the defensive itemization choices, not the ones that will win them the lane by any means. It's to get the Ardent Sensor quicker for your support. At the same time, they're against the Doran Shield from Ornn, and still they got pushed under the turret and had a rougher experience than you would expect.
Yeah, and this time, both supports most likely took the gold quints. I'd have to double check that one, but the gold lead is actually showing this time because of the Relic Shield giving them that extra boost.
And Siege, Cho'Gath and Faker still facing off. Faker now with his ultimate ready. Cho'Gath level 7, so of course has his. Faker again still forced to play back. Albis actually roaming.
It's done.
Does just tag him. Albis still behind him just in case, but Faker dodging out the rest of this damage. A big wave built up. Looks like a dive could be brewing.
And very early E used to dodge the Thunderlords proc out of the Syndra there as well, I believe. So using that so early as a wave crashes means he's probably not going to be able to pick it up. And Fizz is level 6, something to keep in mind. At any moment could use his fish. Could try and 1v1 and outplay from now on.
And it's before Cho'Gath has any magic resist. He does have the barrier, which probably lets him live, but if anyone else comes into that equation, he would be dead. So this is where the CS lead usually freezes in Fizz versus Syndra matchups because the kill threat is so high. Usually the Syndra has to let the Fizz beat.
Charlie has run point instead. They're going to try and get a lead there. Wolf looks to be in trouble. Gets ulted, and that's first blood.
Everything thrown right before Wolf hits level 6 and taking that advantage mid lane and paying it towards the bottom lane. Faker was just keeping the wave at his turret, knows that Cho'Gath has to respect it. Really good roam by Cho'Gath.
Yeah, just very good from Cho'Gath. There's not much else to add to it. Faker couldn't really roam himself, perhaps the teleport if desperate or they chose to fight in response. But with how squishy Wolf is going to be, I do believe it's the gold generation with how squishy he looks as well. Not a lot of survivability there for him. Bang can't provide a heal. He has to use it on himself. Still just gonna die.
No ulti there either. So no wild growth for Wolf as he does go down for the first kill of this game. Peanut at level 6. Fish lands in. It's only a small one, but there might be enough. Charlie, flash barriers out of the way, but here's Mountain going to try and turn it back around. Peanut gets a great one and lands a stun onto Mountain. He's forced to get back under the turret, and AHQ barely live.
One more hit on Cho'Gath from either the Fizz or the Sejuani, and they could have stunned with the permafrost and exploded them for that kill. But also, the baby fish by Faker is a little confusing from there. Like, yes, it's a guaranteed fish, but it does much less damage if that's a longer range fish. They probably get the kill.
Cool interaction to notice as well as, of course, using the Q as you ult him means the Q's more guaranteed to hit. But you're right, the lack of damage does come back to haunt them towards the end of that trade as SKT still trying to pressure, but with not a lot left available.
There's a 3v3 right now. Peanut, I think, just trying to steal it with his E, but gonna need to get it. Does smite it away and dash over the wall, but AHQ make chase.
Teleport.
Yeah, flash in as well. Albis wants it, gets the tornado knockup very quickly.
Wolf, no summoners.
Is here now. Good old Peanut. He's gonna be the first one. Flash, roots him, backs him back in. Arcade back flash. Beautiful combo by Ziv as Mountain takes down Wolf.
I'm actually amazed Peanut lived. I love the patience by Ziv, waiting for the double root, delaying on his Q to get everyone. I thought it was a for sure double kill, but Peanut narrowly escapes. Even so, a big advantage for AHQ here.
Lucky to be alive, of course, Peanut, but with no hesitation, they teleport in for the fight. Flashing forwards as Janna is not something you'll often see in League of Legends, but proves to be successful here, knowing that Wolf just doesn't have summoner spells.
And it shows good awareness of the jungler summoner spells in Ultimate as well, knowing that gank just happened in the mid lane, and SKT overreaches for that blue buff steal when they didn't have the defensive capabilities. So this is a very good job by AHQ to punish the SKT mistakes. SKT doesn't make very many of them, so you got to make sure you're pouncing when they do.
Well, they get the first turret and the Infernal Drake as their reward. Huni will trade for the top outer turret, grabbing SKT's first of this game, but beautifully set up here as Peanut, just a touch too far.
Yeah, uses the dash very early on into the trade. The teleport with no hesitation once again from Ziv, and Ziv's awareness. Firstly to use the ultimate, and then to know the distance between his roots and his twisted advance. Times it very well. Perhaps the cast was a little bit early in the end, but it still did the damage, and Peanut's so lucky to be alive at all.
Yeah, and I think Wolf is the one who saved him. He ended up throwing the shield onto Peanut instead of himself, knowing that he was dead for sure, and the only way one of them is going to get away is if he shields the other guys. So, good job by the 0-2 support, gotta say.
Admirable.
Certainly a good look there, but it is fun to kind of track SKT's early progress throughout this tournament. They played 2 games so far with very different goal differences. I mean, this game not too far behind just yet, but played C9 and EDG, and even though they won, they were very different games.
Yeah, need to emphasize how insane that comeback was from SKT. Never before since they started tracking this stat at Worlds in 2014 has a team come back from that large of a 25-minute deficit. That's what SKT did yesterday against EDG. So this is nothing. This is 300 gold and Infernal Drake for them so far.
Yeah, you can see C9 was a pretty good upward trend. EDG was a downward trend. This is straight in the middle, so we've got all 3 sample sizes we could need.
And the versatility of the team is certainly a strength, but teleport in from SKT, ult from Peanut. I think just missed.
And that was really forced. It did just miss. The max range was reached at the Sejuani ultimate, so it exploded through the slow field. But even the teleport was so far off in lane that they wouldn't be able to chain it together. So some disorganization coming here. Double TP as well.
Yeah, they both used their teleport and both cancelled it at the last second. I feel like if they wanted to really force it, they could have followed through with the teleport. Fizz has flash and he has ultimate, but Sejuani throws it as they cancel. So to me, that's just a miscommunication from the SKT roster when trying to make a play.
Even with all these miscommunications though, their side lanes are winning in CS by a pretty substantial margin. 123 to 104, plus the Relic Shield gold generation that they have down on the Twitch, and 131 on what is now an Abyssal Mask Cho'Gath. So they're actually feeling all right about this game. And now they're going to dive Ziv.
Time to dive Ziv. Got a lot of health, but maybe not a whole lot left. Man, I'm pretty low as well as he's going to get stunned up. Twisted Advance not enough, but the Permafrost stuns him, and Faker going to try and nab the last hit, but it's Huni with a nom 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 that grabs it.
Yeah, very good from Huni to secure it. If he uses the ult, gets the feast stack, it's more valuable than Faker getting 300 gold realistically. So take it, Huni. Take it for the Cho'Gaths of the world. And they get themselves a kill SKT, so don't need teleports, it seems, to make a play.
I mean, they're just going to keep cycling in here. It's now Mountain who's next up. Why is he there?
Round 2, gets silenced, gets done. Goodbye, sweetheart, Mountain. Oh no, it looks like a disaster. Faker's going to grab it.
And nothing AHQ was doing in response to that. Very dazed, it seems, in their response to that play.
Freebie! Chowie picks up Peanut in the brush.
Everyone gets some gold in this game. It was a bit of a mistake from AHQ, but Chowie gets a cheeky roam in to, you know, pick up some slack.
And Rusty, a surprisingly sloppy game from SKT so far. Like, these dives are nice, and this is what you expect from SKT. We're going to watch Ziv one more time here, try and survive, but Huni tanks it. Very nice synergy between the Sejuani passive and the two melee champions they have in solo lanes to stack it up almost instantly. But then this next dive, also good, right? Mountain sticks around, Faker goes in with Peanut. But what's interesting is no one decides to be a bro and tank Peanut out to safety when they're right here. He could have gone any number of routes out there, but he just walks into the brush. Faker could have probably walked up, taken a few hits for him and allowed him to escape, but they don't. So Chowie gets the kill.
And door number 1 was a Syndra, and door number 2 was a Janna, and door number 3 was a turret, and they choose to get the Syndra option instead. They knew what was behind every door.
Well, Chowie does pick one up, so a nice bit of gold for him, but on the mid lane as they have reached his first item, spikes, Protobelt done for Faker, and Morello Nomicon completed there for Chowie. So a lot of these roams, we are seeing both of these mid laners be very active at this part of the game, are going to matter a lot in these sort of skirmishes and dives that we've seen already in these first 16 minutes. Other than that, though, AHQ now making their own play, 3v2 right now, although the rest of SKT are coming up the river. Bang could be in trouble. Feathers out from Ornn, uses the Feather Storm to get himself out of trouble, knows there is cavalry arriving.
And Faker is here well first. Chowie's trying to rotate, may get caught in rotation.
Good juke back, Faker though, still gonna run it in. Great ult, but a good stun. Gonna land on the 2, Faker a little low, does Protobelt for a little bit of extra movement speed to cast. Maybe not what he wanted, as Bang unleashes with the ultimate. AHQ forced to run away as Peanut. Wild Growth still tanky on the front line, but a stun lands in, finds 2, Faker getting clipped again. Mountain though, the one to pick up Peanut as Ziv. Another great TP, Huni flashes as a twisted event, connects back onto him. Arcane smash back into the team. Huni, he wants to feast on something, but he'll feast on death.
Just another play turned around by AHQ. This Fizz pick not necessarily creating the pressure that SKT wanted it to when they're going for these kills. They're not converting quick enough, and then the fight is getting turned around. Ziv has had some amazing plays.
And that's the big thing. Every time SKT makes a mistake, credit to Chowie for what it's worth as well. We'll see that, I've no doubt, in the replay. But they're getting a mid lane turret and a Herald because SKT aren't forcing for an objective. They're forcing for the sake of killing them. And that's backfiring, and then AHQ get the objective.
Yeah, there are certain elements of this game that are classic SKT, and there are other elements of this game that are very confusing when you look at the nameplate. So the thing that is classic SKT is how close the gold is. They always seem to do this where the game is falling right and they're still very close in gold. But this type of stuff, where they're committing onto Chowie, they're using all their ultimates for nothing, and then sticking around, right? They just missed both ultimates and didn't generate a kill, but they commit to the fight with the teleport instead of both hopping over the wall and running to safety. They go for more, but they don't get anything because they've now expended everything. AHQ gets to turn around on them with Ziv and his patience following Huni with the twisted advance.
Yeah, and Chowie twice hitting clutch stuns. Yes, it was SKT overreaching, but Chowie still did it. The twisted advance, the ultimate out of Ziv as well, locking them up at the same time. Very well done from Ziv to have that flank, and all of these things are still fantastic from AHQ ultimately, but SKT, you're still looking at that gold. It's about to tick over, just still fairly close.
Yeah, and it looks like SKT actually picked up the Cloud Drake, they picked up the turret on the bot side, so absolutely still in this game, and still have a late game Twitch Lulu.
Well, AHQ will get themselves up a turret still, as Ornn should be able to finish this one off with a bit of extra AD from Albis's Janna. So sitting under 1,000 gold up for AHQ, but certainly still up. But the objectives are getting close. AHQ are ahead in kills, but again, especially in this meta, you need a big lead to open up a mid game. As Bang gets done, no combo to follow.
And this is one of those disheartening things to watch, seeing a gold lead so close when it feels like SKT have made such big mistakes, but AHQ won't know what the exact gold amount is, and it'll feel like for them that they have a substantial amount of momentum and that they're winning team fights. And for me, that's something that will still carry through for them. The concern is that SKT may still be strong enough to match the fight, but for AHQ, that's such a big positive.
Yeah, and I also want to call out an itemization choice. I really like the Executioner's calling from Bang, specifically against Janna. Twitch can apply the Grievous Wounds to everyone, and that greatly diminishes the Monsoon healing that resets so many fights with this pick. So I like how quickly he's picked it up, even before his Infinity Edge starts building confusion.
Yeah, and it's not the first time we've now seen Twitch as a pick against Janna. It seems to be the consistent trend at the moment that this is the best way to answer it, and I agree. Twitch with Ultimate and Executioner's calling smashes Janna's Monsoon.
Well, we'll check back in with where we're at. Again, AD carries building up strength. You hit on Twitch. Oh, look at Xayah as Ornn. That's not the essence fever finish. So kept up in CS, I think, from a lot of that sidewave and turret action that just happened for AHQ. So the gold is starting to, or the farm is starting to even up, excuse me. But again, gonna have to look for these fights. And SKT, even with a champion like a Fizz, will still find some great team fights as Faker eats a big old stun from Cho'Gath.
Yeah, we've seen enough of Faker on Fizz to not count him out in any of these games. He'll weave his ultimate through some insane angles and find access to carries, and that's going to be the question here. We know Ornn can use the ultimate to escape some of the burst, but Cho'Gath can't. If he can get those ults onto Syndra, that'll be huge.
Faker's found Mountain, gets knocked up, almost knocks up Ornn, but the stun lands in as Xayah will tank it. SKT booking it out of here though.
But again, fighting for the purpose of getting a kill over Crux, which is just something that they were taking for free. Imagine if they lost that fight. Faker's got half health right now, and that's next to the Baron pit. It feels like they're fighting for control of Summoner's Rift more than anything else. And ultimately, it's an okay idea because it will give them a lot of pressure with a single pick. But this is the third time that it hasn't gone to plan.
Ooh, Bang opening up onto Cho'Gath though, but Ziv behind means that Bang cannot overcommit to anything there. In fact, Ziv, despite being very far down in CS, did some great map-wide influence so far for AHQ. Some clutch teleports 2 times in a row now with the Rift Herald. He's going to go down mid. Must have been expiring because that outer turret's already dead, but AHQ may just root for a push.
It's going to be hard to get a lot out of this one, especially when they don't have great control of the sides.
They have
probably just to charge. Not much else, but they have Fizz and Cho'Gath cut off.
Good damage. Huni though. Oh, Faker also there. Gonna spot him now with a sapling. Ziv. Let the ultimate rip if something bad were to happen. Ornn a little far forward trying to get damage onto the turret. AHQ though, decent damage worth the Rift Herald usage, just a bit of extra pressure.
Yeah, and it maybe was expiring, but a very good force to utilize it as best they could. Ornn steps up and he can go forwards because he is the Xayah with the ultimate there. Sejuani was the one big threat for him because Faker and Huni were cut off, and that's the biggest win for AHQ ultimately.
Yeah, and not counting AHQ out here when they are 1-1 in the group already. If they win this against SKT, moves into 2-1, and after the first week is over, they would guaranteed be tied for first in the group at least. So subbing in Cho'Gath so far has paid off. He had that early lead on Faker in the laning phase, has carried it through, stuffing some of the engages when he's been the one caught out, getting some really big stuns. And one of the few mid-laners to build the Banshee's Veil, yet another thing to guard against the Fizz. So we really are going to have to see whether or not SKT can make this Fizz pick work, because there's a very real reason why it's fallen off in the meta. We have all these games where you got these giant front laners, double tanks, sensor supports, and then 2 big damage dealers to try and burn through the tanks. Well, Fizz isn't going to burn through a tank. He's actually your throwback flanking assassin that has to now navigate that world through 2 tanks and also avoid the Janna.
And get a Xayah who has the ultimate to deny the fish as well. So realistically, the Fizz pick is potentially just to try and, you know, enforce a 1-3-1 type of strategy because he has the teleport there. Cho'Gath doesn't have that. And so I'd say maybe that's what they start looking towards. He's rushing Lichbane second.
Yeah, as much as we're talking about Cho'Gath and Ornn, if he catches Albis, it's probably enough to win the fight, because that limits the disengage that SKT would be able to have and breaks that protective force that so many of the carries have had. These supports are very pivotal in these compositions.
I think there are two great things at work here for Faker. One, this does seem like a very difficult game for Fizz, and it doesn't surprise me that he feels up to the challenge, taking the counter pick here, but Faker made his name in his first ever World Championship, playing Assassins and killing squishy supports.
Yeah, and PastryTime, as much as you want to talk about it, the goal's still pretty much even. It's one Drake to one. It's a one-turn advantage for AHQ, and SKT's right in.
And that's the thing, we are really just waiting for this big breaking point in the game. Again, I'm sure the average game time for this World will be quite a bit slower than some others, and really teams that are just in good position. SKT still don't have the mid-outer now with a 4-man seed, are going to try and crack it open, and AHQ, no good responses. Mountain looks for the flank, can't find the angle.
Yeah.
What a pipe dream for Mountain, I think.
This is showing the pressure in the game is switching over a little bit. The fact that SKT just walked up and took what is probably the most important turret of the early game shows that they have the pressure and the wave manipulation to do that. The 1-3-1 with the double TP is starting to pay off here for SKT.
Really threatening. Still good vision around the Baron as well. AHQ in a very predictable position for SKT to be navigating through. You can see the very cautious vision placed in certain areas. They know.
Well, thankfully it's a Maokai that he face checks, not a squishy, so AHQ will keep their top laner alive. Cho'Gath steals the blue buff though, and SKT again still getting these lanes pushed up. Huni is very far down towards that bot side.
I do find the trinket choices rather interesting in this game as well. Usually the default in these games is 2 upgraded sweepers rather than 3 upgraded sweepers, so both teams actually focusing on vision denial a bit more than vision coverage, and I think that favors SKT because they need less vision on the map in order to find flanks. But AHQ is probably thinking the same way, get a pick with Syndra, go for a big objective.
Yeah, that's one of the big stats we noticed from the SKT KT series in every best of 5. Like SKT, they've always excelled at vision denial. KT is so good at placing vision, and ultimately, if you're that good at placing vision denial down, there's only fewer wards from AHQ on the Rift. Maybe you're denying most of them from being there at all. It's about how effective can both of these teams be with the minimal vision they'll be placing and with the extra emphasis on that denial.
Yep, that Cloud Drake though does give Huni a Fizz stack, which is always worth it, and of course gives SKT their second Drake of this game. It sat there for a couple minutes. I think teams likely favoring the left side of the map more right now, but Inferno will be the next one to perhaps prompt some action. And again, it does feel like AHQ have been kind of very gently and subtly pushed up with all the pressure in these side lanes. Cho'Gath though flashes out of the way. Gonna avoid a stun. That's
a huge flash cooldown. Ziv also started channeling his teleport, so AHQ is just losing pressure all over the place. They've already straight conceded 2 Drakes, as well as their mid lane turrets, so slowly but surely SKT's getting the vision. Mostly it's about them having the minion waves in the side. I mean, look at Ornn. He's up top lane clearing a wave. There's nowhere for AHQ to actually be able to make a play here, and they're afraid of committing into a double TP because SKT always has their teleports in the side lane. So they have been doing a good job of regaining control of this match.
Huni has been constantly controlling the bottom lane as well. AHQ are slipping away. It starts to feel like they need to make those big plays.
Exactly. Rusty, what do you do when you can't keep up with the 1-3-1? You force an objective, so they're trying to go on Baron, but the more they're indecisive, the more damage Huni's going to do to that turret, because SKT is not going to move until that Baron starts.
They've done it. They've hit it at the very least.
All right, they're going to start the Baron up here. Peanut in the area, and remember, if Cho'Gath is in, he can also try and feast it. He gets the turret in the bot lane.
Down to half health.
AHQ pretty hard committing to this Baron, though.
I mean, Cho'Gath can teleport in with Feast. They have to pull off.
Yep, going back in again. Peanut stumps Mountain only. Huni now in the pit. Looks for a rupture, doesn't grab it onto Ornn, who's going to poke back in. Baron also dealing some damage to SKT.
Amusingly, at the end of all of this, whilst nothing happens, Ornn's able to use Blade Collar against the Scuttle Crab, so they'll still have vision control in the end. Above all else, that's nice for them. And the inside track straight to the middle lane by forcing SKT. This is the first move in a few minutes that AHQ have done something very well.
And how hard can they force? Because Faker moved top lane to extend that 1-3-1. And that means AHQ need to force his 5 to prevent losing more side turrets.
There's one turret, but what do they do next? They need to keep going. Somebody needs to answer the pressure in top lane, or they need to go. And SKT might even grab an exit kill. Mountain body slams out from under the rupture.
I mean, listen, we're going to run the same play. There's no Maokai ultimate here anymore, and the Lich Bane Fizz can get a lot of damage done. They're running all the way up through Baron, but in doing so, they're going to lose a bit of control of Baron here.
Yeah, back to Baron is really risky when Faker can just walk straight down and have a flank just from where he was pushing in the first place, and they don't want him to utilize the Lich Bane, just get a turret for free, so they will push him back. You're right, there's a chance that Baron vision may be completely eradicated from this. There's already a ward in the Baron pit itself as well from SKT, so they were okay with this. That is a control ward hiding beneath the normal ward for the record.
7 hits and he gets rid of all of it.
He's getting there.
It's going to take a while.
Slowly but surely. Mountain just slaps down a couple wards.
But I heard he's
6 hits, one of them was already started
a lot
off.
of headbutts.
Yeah.
Pina actually now checking back with some vision, but AHQ currently have Supreme Vision in the pit with that control ward, and looks like Ornn has actually gone back and finished his 3rd item, and Cho'Gath has already done the same. So if it really did feel like AHQ were waiting for something, and I think waiting for a mistake is just that against a team like SKT. So if they're waiting for a sign to say, hey, time to fight, Inferno Drake's coming out soon, and both your carries have 3 items, AHQ, it is time to make a play.
Yeah, we have to also ask the question, are they waiting for something, or is SKT blocking them from doing stuff? So now they have the items. They know they're losing the 1-3-1. They only have so many side turrets left. They almost have to do something rather soon around the Baron pit, because they're keeping those side waves well in the territory of AHQ, and that's just going to give SKT more and more control until AHQ can force a play.
Yeah, and you can see Huni once again back to the bottom lane, caught the wave where he is standing before it even hit the river. So you're absolutely right. The amount of control they've got on the bottom side of the rift is ridiculous. Maokai has to answer it. And now SKT get a bit of momentum because Ziv has answered it. Even though Huni doesn't have teleport, he's able to freely move around Summoner's Rift at the moment on the opposite side of the map.
Yeah, that's the craziest thing to me. The fact that he pushed that wave that far off on the map without teleport means they have no fear of AHQ's ability to make a play at the moment, and he's showing once again when Ziv has the teleport advantage right now. He just needs to pull back to his base and HQ force.
Faker can stun. Dip out from under. Cho'Gath, not a whole lot of mana right now. Blue buff not on him also, so Faker continuing to be a pest here in the top lane. Also going to get harder as Faker moves towards his 3rd item. Zonya's think he has enough gold now for it, but hasn't gone back to shop just yet. No need, given all the map pressure SKT are getting. Infernal up in 40 seconds or so. And again, AHQ just keep being slowly pushed back towards their nexus.
SKT do have to start selling off some of their auxiliary items to make sure they have enough control wards on the map, though. They have a refillable potion, a Dark Seal, and Relic Shield, which I actually think is a good item for the Twitch, but at least the Dark Seal and refillable potion should be control ward spots right now, as Vision is the utmost priority around Baron.
It's tough to say, I think, exactly how AHQ operate as a team, but if we consider Westdoor being a player that is certainly known more for his responsibility in guiding the team, AHQ could use a little bit of guidance here as Faker just poking at Mountain. Mountain might try it, something here as Huni looking for Ornn, good dodge out of the Rupture, and Huni actually taking a decent amount of damage, but bang, he is being very patient. Mountain
wide open.
Gonna get knocked up. There's the ult from Ziv. Locks up quite a few, but the stun from Cho'Gath also good. AHQ reset with the redemption, but Faker, he's looking for a flank here, actually on the red buff right now, but now actually going in onto Huni. Huni forced to flush out.
How nonplussed is Faker with what everyone else is doing? They're trying to do this engage, and he just uses all his spells on red buff. He got it, and now he might flank him.
It might actually pay off here.
Save the ulti for later, perhaps. Faker still with a flank, finds one into 10.
Oh, no!
That's not it.
Well, that has revealed himself. This is awkward.
Yeah, still level 16 with blue buff. Infernal Drake up, all control on SKT's side. It's still working for them from here, but I think you bring up a great point, PastryTime, about not having Westdoor in the lineup. Yeah, the laning phase was a lot better, but the post-laning phase doesn't seem to have much purpose.
I also feel like it's important to give some extra context here for AHQ's team composition, being that it's a Gragas Janna. They're very reliant on a teleport flank or ultimate or some kind of engage from Ziv. He doesn't have flash anymore, and so that one opportunity that I feel like they may have even had is gone, but they are so good at disengaging, which is why they want SKT to make mistakes coming to them.
Ooh.
He was spotted by the super, but this is way too late.
Yeah, Cho'Gath just got spotted, but that's not enough. SKT, a very rare mistake. Just give away the Baron.
We're saying a lot of things about SKT being very rare at this, and we also have to consider the game yesterday against EDG when they were down 10,000 gold, so they are having a few maybe slow starts to the group stage, which we have definitely seen a lot of before. Gonna have to see if this ends up costing them, though, because even after Baron PastryTime, they're up 2 Cloud Drakes and and 800 gold.
Also grabbed the Infernal. Kind of that was a trade AHQ made, realizing again, just kind of symbolized a lot of reactive play from AHQ. Okay, they're on the right side of the map. Finally, it's time to walk over to Baron and give it a go. They do grab it, but Baron is a buff that rewards you for being proactive. So AHQ, that's what they need to do with this.
And Baron minions are only empowered when someone is next to them. So unless they can break this stranglehold that SKT has on the map, they're not going to get to a turret with Baron empowered minions. So see if SKT disrupts this push in any way. Here comes Faker.
I feel like they're just stuck mid lane right now, AHQ. They finally broke top. It'll be a slow push or slow process, but most of their work and efforts just have to be around the middle lane itself. Bang is about to reveal himself.
He's going to show bot, and Mountain has flash. They're going on Huni at least.
Ziv from the righteous scorer he wants in. Westdoor dead, trying to try and protect him. Can maybe move him up as Faker actually going to eat the root. Fish though, landed onto arm, but he's got the feather stump, does pull it at the last second. Huni, he's going to get knocked back in. He's so tanky on the Cho'Gath for Peanut. He's zoned out of the fight. SKT's carried, can't get in. Bang, where are you?
He's on his way now.
Bang channeled a full recall from the wave after killing the wave and made it back as Huni, Gargoyle, Stone Plate, Lulu, Shield, Heal survives. Remarkable that they're still alive.
Well, AHQ still pushing in. Peanut looking for a flank here, but Ziv going to block most ult attempts, you have to think. And again, Baron is here, and this inhibitor turret getting exposed. Arm though, silenced up. That's a bad place to be. Xayah, Monsoon reset for Albis. This Faker does him, but gets done. He's going to pop the zombies on the other side, and SKT still moving forward. AHQ do want to peel back. This is a good fight for them, maybe a Faker. Lands a fish on the mountain. Permafrost is going to stun him up, but Ziv zones him out, and Mountain lives.
A team that has a hard time killing people against a team that has a hard time dying, and that's what happens when a team fight breaks out. Mountain barely lives, but Huni barely lives 30 seconds before it, and this game back and forth with AHQ having the Baron is still equal.
Yeah, and something that is more obviously revealed during that fight is how both of these team comps do not have that much damage when compared with the survivability tools of the other. The one thing is having the Fizz that has a much lower DPS of almost all of the mid laners that we're seeing in the meta, like a Ryze or a Cassiopeia. But then the Syndra, Xayah aren't exactly your super hyper carries, combined with the Maokai, Gragas, who are also both very low damage choices. The Cho'Gath, Sejuani, and Twitch, you know, theoretically might actually just be a better late game team fighting crew than what AHQ have. So we saw a preview of that there when they spent 15 seconds trying to kill Cho'Gath and another 12 seconds in that fight disengaging from SKT.
And all Huni has to do is turn around and just rupture Xayah. And if she doesn't dodge it, then she gets knocked up. If she dodges it with her ultimate, she's not dealing damage, and she's the one person that needs to be.
Well, Ornn has a small change from the last fight, probably a big one. Does have a last whisper now finished, so might be doing a lot more damage. Faker gets stunned, fighting a flank. Great play from Cho'Gath to pick that one off, and that's a turret by AHQ.
They have the flank wards for now. He saw him coming, he got him too low. Faker can't go in when he's that low on health. AHQ
maybe needs to commit to this siege. The ult from Ziv is going to mean they do want to go for it. A stun doesn't need to. Huni trying to get out. They break the tower. Redemption back down to SKT. Looking to unleash Bang in the front line, but he's only hitting tanks. Faker has the fish, but he has to throw it, and AHQ get away with that.
That might just be it for the moment. The turret's gone, but AHQ are protecting their flanks, and then they're pushing in.
Yeah, and Bang is super patient with his ultimate. If AHQ does go too far in, Bang's going to open up. Faker also has flank.
Albis, I think, also trying to block it. He only grabs Mountain. He wanted on, but the damage is good. Faker back in Ziv. Now going to peel the Fizz up after he troll balls. Cho'Gath landed a challenge for a Peanut. Nothing! Huni! Oh my god! Feast on for about 50% of his health, and now Faker going to dive back in. Immune the ult from Cho'Gath. Faker so good at this game.
That's the team fight that they're thinking about. They did just get the one carry, but the question is, what do you do after? They're chasing down Ziv.
Well, Ziv is going to have a lot of CC to contend with a TP in from Faker as well. Gonna try and collect this kill. Ziv gonna knock him back, but he eats barely, not a rupture as Faker dives back in. Burst is good, and see you later, Ziv. Eventually, rupture lands. Faker grabs it, and SKT find themselves a fight.
You hate to say it, but he should have died sooner, because that chase was lasting a long time, and the Elder Dragon time is now delayed 10 seconds with the Maokai, which means SKT could force that for sure, and it'll be a highly empowered Elder Dragon.
Yeah, certainly the case. AHQ will have to recall right now. Cho'Gath's lucky to be not spotted as Peanut. They're pushing mid lane, but Bang is bottom. So they might get the one turret. Again, not the priority for them. They want to actually set up for the objective, it seems. Maybe get some big item spikes.
Yeah, it's now 11 beast stacks on Cho. That's one of the reasons it's important to make sure you're feasting the Drake every time your team gets it, plus get the champion kill. Doing a strong job of being a very big show in this fight.
Speaking of champion kills from a Cho'Gath as well, my god, the amount of damage that he does when he finally gets Ornn. The MVP is more the Sejuani in the silence above all else. There is no way to protect himself from that because he was silenced. Huni destroyed him.
Yeah, Albis did his best to try and save with all of it, but not to be. And then, yeah, Cho'Gath cannot use that spell until he sees Faker use the pull. Otherwise, he will react every time. And it's HQ forcing SK T1 in position.
Very big play here. Peanut though, maybe looking for the steal.
Try steal.
Also getting in. Somebody to get the Drake. Big stun there. Lands in onto Ornn again. He goes back to Peanut. He took the other Drake. Fish lands in, but Amused, but oh my god, Huni! So much damage onto Ornn, but he's maybe gonna live. Trying to steal. Oh my god, bro, he can't do a bang. Manages to find the snipe. A double kill for Bang. Cho'Gath gonna die down as well. SKT get it all.
Exactly the fight they wanted. They get AHQ spread out. Faker finally is unleashed on the backline, and Huni did work that fight. All eyes were on the Elder Dragon. Huni says, well, if everyone's dead, it actually doesn't matter that much who gets it. Peanut gets it anyway, and now SKT's gonna push to win.
And he pretty much kills them by being a tank. Compliments of the Elder Dragon buff. SKT need that one moment, and they can take everything with it.
Well, Inhibitor turret down, Inhibitor gonna follow, and SKT will charge forward and move to first in this group. Nexus turret number 1 is gonna fall. AHQ will barely make it back and likely will not respawn as SKT just turn their base into dust. Once again, undefeated here in the group.
Yeah, when you look at this at the end of the week, you'll see SKT 3-0. Assume no surprises, but this was quite a journey for SKT to make it to 3-0. The 10,000 gold deficit they had against EDG yesterday, and the 39-minute game against AHQ here, which is longer than many people expected. But at the end of the day, they knew they'd outscale and outperform in the late-game team fights, and AHQ was without a purpose for much of that mid to late game. So another win for SKT.
And we did see moments, that's always the takeaway. AHQ had moments of brilliance as well with their composition coming into play, with individual play from players like Civ. Mountain's early jungling, when Peanut pressured him, he was composed, he reacted nicely. There was a lot of other things we could take away from this. Even though SKT end up with the victory, it just felt like, you're right, the mid-game against the Korean team started to become a little bit too difficult.
A few hiccups along the way perhaps, but SKT come out victorious. And in the end, that's what this team cares about. They are so good at winning. They'll continue to do it here in the early stages of the World's group stage. Certainly a fun one though, and of all the things I thought were gonna happen with that team comp, I didn't expect the Cho'Gath to be the key piece that unraveled the game.
And it was a clutch play from him as well, with the big flash forwards, the silence and the stone plate, you know, outplaying everybody with his amazing buttons that he can press.
I just wanted to show up the Syndra.
Yeah, I mean, also Huni had a rough games 1 and 2. He had 4 isolated deaths in those 2 games, despite them having the 2 victories, tied for the second most in the tournament coming into today. And in this game, right, was probably the main contributor in these team fights. Absolutely unkillable with the help of the Lulu shields, and then just killed the enemy carries.
Well, certainly looking good there, but for more on SKT's win, let's send it over to Dash and the analysts.
Thank you very much. PastryTime, SKT with yet another comeback victory, this time over AHQ. And I think the most surprising thing there is that this was even a close game. In most people's minds, AHQ was a pretty big underdog here up against SK Telecom.
I mean, yes, and they took the lead, they took the reins, they were driving the game, control of the tempo, good moments from AHQ, but I felt like watching that game, I mean, I said it to you, Dash, I was like, and yet I still feel that SKT are just going to win this. Their composition outscaled, the caster said it, and that's pretty much what they waited for.
Yeah, this is an SKT that just doesn't seem to have improved a whole lot from their form at the summer finals. They're still very vulnerable early on, and it just seems that a team slightly better than AHQ can take the reins and take full advantage of them. Sure, they still have that late game ability to come back out of nowhere, but I'm worried for them.
What I do want to touch on, though, while we have the composition on our screen, is I want to talk about the Syndra versus Fizz. So a big issue is that Cho'Gath couldn't stand in a solo lane across from the Fizz. And when AHQ really started to lose steam, when the game started to get stalled out, it was when they were losing attention around Baron. They couldn't force the Baron because they couldn't control their side lanes. Ziv had to go from top to bottom, back to top, because Cho'Gath couldn't afford to stand in a solo lane if they didn't have eyes on Faker.
I want to add on to that point as well. One of the big problems in the Ardent Center meta is how difficult it is for your team to force Baron, because you're stuck in this little position around Baron where you can't actually engage onto the enemy AD carry. So a Twitch with Ornn sensor sneaks in. You're all sitting 5 members around Baron. He pops up and you can't really get to him. So these teams are like, okay, I guess we can't really start the Baron then because we can't actually team fight. What they haven't figured out yet is you actually need to push the mid lane much deeper. They always just push it past the river and say, ah, great, let's go to Baron. We can start it. Ah, no, we can't actually start it, so now we're stuck here. When you're against split pushers, when you have 4-man mid, which are much stronger, push it all the way down to the tier 2 tower. Take over the enemy jungle, and then you go to Baron. And when the enemy team walks into the jungle to try and stop you, you turn very early, and that's where you can start forcing these fights properly. But teams are not pushing deep enough, and that's why they're stuck there.
And they're not that good at turning.
And they're not that good at turning either, which is then another issue.
A couple points of improvement for some of these squads around the Baron in the early or in the mid and late game. But now let's talk about this early lead that AHQ did build up. Part of that lead had come from the mid lane. Granted, it is Syndra into the Fizz, but Chawi here coming up big for AHQ in terms of the gold that he's able to build early in the game.
Yeah, and you say, Syndra into the Fizz, but it was also Faker that saw the Syndra pick, decided to take his signature Fizz into it, and you're still looking down the barrel of Faker, so huge props to Chawi. And it wasn't just this play, it was also making those roams down bottom. All of AHQ's early success was centered around this guy.
Yeah, and when they play with Westdoor, nothing is centered around the mid lane at all. They have to go to other lanes, but funny enough, in their bot lane, their dual lane is not the strongest 2v2, and Ziv is no longer that big top lane carry because it's also tank meta up in that lane. So why is Westdoor playing?
Which is a good question. You see it here, up 7 CS at 10 minutes here against Faker. Just for a comparison, through the first 2 games that Westdoor played in the group stages here, he averaged down 19 CS at 10 minutes.
To be fair, though, in this game in particular, Peanut and Huni just went crazy level 1, going for some bizarre invade for red buff that lasted like 2 minutes, that even had Faker go into that, lose out on like 15 CS mid, force his early TP out of the regular timing for Fizz that caused him even more pressure and more of an advantage in mid.
To be fair, Chavi is just much better in the laning phase than Westdoor. So yeah, I do agree. He got a little bit of help right there.
It's an important point to make, but
it is, but you can play around Chavi in this lane here. You can actually rely on him getting ahead as well if you are helping him. And then suddenly you have a much better mid game instead of this AHQ that needs to go super late game as we saw against EDG.
But at the end of the day, as you said, Frost, any game that SKT is in feels like a winnable game for SKT, no matter how grave or dire the situation. And that's where we jump to the final fight of the game around the Elder Drake. SKT with another big comeback. Here is your Ace of Predator replay.
And what really sealed the deal was that teleport from Huni. He had, a couple of questionable calls in the mid game, but he really came through late game. He found the flash chomp on the team fight earlier, and then he finds the rupture in the backline this time around.
And while Huni looked great, the fact that Peanut was able to connect that glacial fissure onto the carry was tremendous, allowing Cho'Gath to get in there and just delete him.
And another thing we see in the fight is actually the same problem HQ found around Baron. It's the one way when you group up and start the objective, you can't reach the backline. So behind that, Elder Drake was sitting at Twitch, was already, in the late game, just opening up with ulti. No one even got close to Bang in this fight here. And it is that issue where when you're starting these objectives, you are not in a flanking position. You can't dive onto the enemy AD carry, and it becomes really difficult. So this was a lost fight before it even started.
All right, so this is it's a very specific question. Against SKT, these Korean teams in particular, when we're looking at the fact that, teams need to push the pace, they need to look to build advantages and close the game out, not let it get to this point. Do we need to move away from the Jannas? Do we need something that allows us to pull that engage and actually get to the back line when we're threatening the globals?
You just gotta have balls when you're playing. Go all in. You need to just... EDG almost did it with Janna.
Yeah,
good point.
You had Maokai and Gragas here to start the fights. Again, if you push the lanes deep enough and go in towards the enemy jungle and basically force them to come face take a Baron, you have the members to start the team fight. But you gotta pull it then, like you gotta go for the fight. Otherwise, you're never gonna be in a position to win, and you just wait too long, and then you can't actually win the late game fight.
I almost don't think it has really anything to do with the champions. I think it's the fact that the Korean teams know at every single point in the game exactly what they should be doing, and as these games get stalled out later and later, we're starting to see teams that don't know exactly what they need to be doing,
all right,
and that's where they're
in
caught.
here, Deficio, what do you got?
Yeah, I feel like in early to mid game, I see mistakes from the Korean teams. They do not 100% know what they have to do, and they're opening themselves up. Samsung. SKT in this game as well did some really weird decisions.
They don't necessarily look immortal, even though they are sitting at 3-0. That's going to do it for SKT versus AHQ. Coming up next, we got another fight in Group A with EDG and Cloud9 facing off on the Rift. Don't go anywhere.